Hello, hello, my global friends. It's Izabela on the Carry the World Messenger greeting you for another Power Hour, Leadership Power Hour. And I have a fantastic guest. And it seems like we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Woohoo! I have with me Kim Araman. Good morning or good evening, Kim. You're joining me from Dubai, and it's late in the evening, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Hello, Izabela.
How are you? How is it?
I'm doing great. It's almost, what time is it? It's 10 p.m. in Dubai, actually, at the moment. So it's almost the end of the day. What about you? It's still morning time, isn't it?
It is a late morning, and I'm kind of being a little bit selfish because for our Western and European audiences that is joining us today, so it's 11 o'clock, just a little bit after 11 in Mountain Zone, and East Coast around 1 o'clock, and a lot of people are taking lunch break. And reason why I wanted for people to have a chance to hear this live is kind of middle of their work day as they're trying to wrap up 2020.
We'll probably give them an inspirational boost and hopefully making it an enjoyable lunch break for them.
Exactly. And everybody, I'm sure, will get so much out of it. So guys, before we deep dive into topic that we are super excited about it, and I'm sure so many of you would like to learn more, I wanted to have a chance for Kim to introduce herself. Obviously, she has a phenomenal story. We actually have so much in common, and you will find out how. Kim, you originally grew up in Lebanon. You, as a little child, survived a war. So both of us are war survivors. You are from the heart of the craziness that just recently also happened in Beirut. And seems like some things just keep repeating themselves over and over historically. And you've been last 7 years in Dubai and establishing yourself as an independent power woman. Please tell us more.
Thank you for the introduction, Izabela. So yeah, I'm originally Lebanese. I grew up, I would say around, I spent 23 years in Lebanon, survived the war where I was still young, so I don't remember much by then, but I obviously have traumas here and there we're not going to discuss during the video at this moment. Maybe it comes up later. I did my studies and everything in Lebanon. Then I moved to Paris, where I stayed there for 4 years, where my French accent comes from. Well, actually, I'm a native French speaker, but I also get a lot of "Are you French?" because I have a very stronger, prominent French accent when I speak English. So I spent 4 years there, where I did my studies and I did some internships. Went back home for 9 months, realized it wasn't for me anymore because I had changed a lot back then, and found myself in Dubai. Although I would not necessarily have said I would find myself anywhere in Dubai. I was always thinking more Europe, never Dubai in my case. But that's before actually seeing it, being in Dubai and living in Dubai. And I've been here for almost 7 years now, well, a bit more than 7 years now. And I've done a few things in Dubai. So I started in the corporate world, where I've been for a bit more like over 8 years, I would say. I've changed industries a lot. I've gotten promotions a lot because I changed a lot of companies many times. And I've recently launched my own business. Well, when I say recently, it's been a year and a bit in interview and career coaching, because this is really my passion point. I've been through it. I've been in jobs I didn't enjoy. I've been in jobs that didn't reflect me, and I don't want anyone else to be in the same position. So really my passion is to help people really find a job that they're super happy about. Why do you need to wait to get out of work to do something that you're happy about if 70% of your time is spent at work? You shouldn't do that. And that's why I do what I do today.
That is brilliant. And I love your story. I love your story that actually from some very hard situations and hardships, not only you mastered the languages, and you did also similar thing like I did, to re-educate yourself in the different countries with the different educational backgrounds, and then figured out and navigated ways how you can not only survive, but obviously how to thrive in those environments. Kudos, obviously 2020 was major transformational year for so many of us. And seems like from there you have your company going, you're having many things established so that you can be much more valuable and sharing the value and skills that you have to the global audience. And for everybody, even no matter where you're listening from and which part of the world you are living right now, Obviously, we have a global struggle, economic struggle, social, economic, political, and so forth. But key is, again, what do we do? How do we pivot? And 𝗙𝗂𝘁𝗂𝗍 did a very good one. So do you mind sharing, how did you arrive to this transformation on your individual level so that you really took the reins in your hands and pivot effectively?
For sure. So essentially for me, it was more of a turning point, in the sense that, so a funny thing is, I've always loved interviews, contrary to a lot of people that, you know, are out there struggling with it. I really love interviews. I've loved it since the first time I started doing internships and everything. The very first internship I've got, I was more excited about going to interviews than actually getting the job. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but that's how it is. And on the way, I was always thinking about it, but coaching wasn't a big thing back then, or it was more specific to life coaching. There wasn't such a thing as interview and career coaching, which has only become very recent, I would say. And last year, like with COVID and with everything happening, it made me more think of priorities, you know, and it gave me more time to reflect on what I wanted to do, and really think like, you know, do I not want to do something with my passion? Do I not want to invest my time in really helping and doing something that excites me, making a difference in the world? And that's really what drove me to start and focusing more on the business and where I am today.
That is brilliant. And I'm so glad you shared that, because a lot of times people lose their passion. They're not sure what that passion is, but also not sure how they can leverage the skill sets and really look at things from clean slate and give themselves the break, right? I just wanted to say that we're having quite a bit of friends joining us on LinkedIn Live, so I wanted to acknowledge them. Thank you, 𝗙𝗲𝗱𝗃, for being here, Natal, and others. Please, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and comment, and we'll make sure we definitely address them. But one of the things I also wanted to say, a lot of people are trying to be expert, position themselves as expert, and I see a lot of people being frustrated. One particular post I remember seeing on LinkedIn, guy who applied to over 2,000 jobs and still did not get anywhere, and had us all these gurus and experts working on his resume, and had a coaches telling him what to do left and right. And I really kind of feel like, what level of expertise these individuals then do have? How can you have so much traction? And then he is in full despair. It's like, how do I even move forward? I have to say, I'm very discouraged. It's end of the year and I don't see results. So that breaks my heart when you see someone who is driven, who is passionate, who is willing, who is coachable, yet coaches are not able to help to navigate to produce results. So do you mind sharing a little bit how you differentiate your value proposition with your clients, and what results you were able to accomplish for them, so that people can really see that red flags very quickly or adjust their game and not wait for way too long? Because too many people spend so much time and precious resources and still don't get anywhere.
For sure. So I think a few things. It's really, first of all, to understand what it is that you want. Because a lot of people just go into the job, like, you know, the job searching territory, and they just kind of like apply to different roles, similar roles, use the same CV, use the same message that they network with people if they do, and they don't really differentiate themselves versus all of the other people that are doing the same things. And the first thing, before even understanding what you want, is to understanding yourself. And that's what I help people do. If you don't know yourself enough, you are not going to be able to sell yourself. And that's the selling point beyond anything else. You can build confidence, you can do everything, you can have all of the right tricks. But if you don't know what your unique strength, and I'm saying really unique, not what the job description says it should be, really unique to you, this is how you're going to be able to sell yourself to the right role that reflects the same. This is how you're going to be able to communicate in their language using your own. So it will be like a match. And the funny thing is, I always say, and that's one of my personal mantra, when I say, when you get, like, obviously you have to have all of the job, like the processes and everything before even getting the interview. But when you get the interview, people think like, oh, I got the interview, so it's much easier, but it's not. It's like, it's very tough along the way. And the interview is even more important because you're having competition with the top, very highly candidates out there. So it's really not easy. And I always say, treat your interview as a first date. And of course, I don't mean that in the personal sense. I mean that in the professional sense. But you really need to go out there. It needs to be like a perfect match between you and the hiring person. You don't know anything about the person. The other person doesn't know anything about you other than what's on your LinkedIn, which, trust me, we know is very basic from each end. Like, it just tells me your work experience, but it doesn't tell me about your personality or anything else. And it's really where you kind of get to know the other person and you see if you're a good match for each other. And that's very important. You have to understand that it's a two-way scenario. It's not just you trying to convince the other person that you're the right person. You need to make sure that it fits you as well for the long term. It's not just about getting a job and feeling frustrated or let go of it in a couple of months. And I think that's the first critical part to any job before you even start anything. Know yourself well.
That is very powerful. And what I also find is, from a leadership standpoint and looking from that top tier, so much things change, obviously, in organizations, not just in the recent year, obviously, but also in direction they're going, and who is leading organizations, what values are kept, what things change. Is it still really organization super hot and exciting to be part of it? Like, we constantly hear, oh my God, it's so exciting to work for Google or Netflix or these top 5 or 10 premier companies. But things also changing with them. I'm not necessarily that a necessarily bad change, but do you fit with that high-paced dynamic or whatever might be the scenario? And how well do you do research to really see, are you really match also for the cultural aspects or the fit in the ways that you know that you will be thriving, not just surviving?
100%. And I think for a lot of people out there that are starting, although I think this generation that's starting now is a bit different and is more of a startup mindset versus my generation was more like, going into Google's and Facebook and the top Fortune 500 companies, because we always think, we've been brought up with the, you have to strive for the best. And the best in our mind was, what are the best companies out there? And these are the best companies. And this is what we had in mind. But it's very different to want to work, for example, for Google, but really understanding what Google is about, because Google sounds exciting, and it definitely is for some people that fit the profile. I'm nowhere not saying it's not, but you need to understand exactly how it is and how they work. You need to understand what your job description is. Are you going to be excited about it? Not just the idea that it's Google or the idea that you work with people that are fun. That's great. But then beyond that, what is the day-to-day work that you want to do? You always need to ask about things, whether it's Google or even a startup or anything. You should always inquire about what are the day-to-day tasks, not just with the recruiter, but with people working in the same role, to understand if it fits you or not, if this is what you see yourself doing on a regular basis or not. And I think this generation right now is changing a lot. They're more like, they're acting the opposite, like, hopping around from one thing to another, going from one startup to another. When they don't find it challenging enough, they move to the next best thing that's happening, because the world around us is like this. It's not their fault. It's just the way the world is, that it's just moving along. The news is the same, right? You get 50 news a day and it moves every second. So they're used to that fast pace. And the problem is the big companies are not maintaining that fast pace fast enough for them. So the startup mindset gives them what they're looking for in terms of fast pace and challenge. And that's what's exciting about it. And I think COVID helped us really understand in terms of leadership. And that's what one thing I recommend my clients to ask, all the time, because that's important for me, if it is for them, is how do the companies that they're interested in being recruited at treated COVID? But I'm saying treated COVID from the business side, but also the human side, because that tells us what leaders are about and what companies are about. What is important for you? Is it only business, or is it also people?
Exactly. That excellent point. A lot of great golden nuggets right here. And we're having also a couple of questions, but I just wanted to pivot on this. Kim, you spot on. We're seeing a lot of interesting changes right now, and a lot of leadership. And when I talk about, again, C-suite and executives in general, it's like paralysis, how we act, how we actually make a choice and decision, because magnitude of shift, it's very, very challenging for them. And a lot of the companies are regulated by their board of directors, and board of directors are also trying to figure it out. It's like looking at a crystal ball, because we're constantly being thrown another curveball and another curveball, and everything again shifts and changes from the top. So it's very important to understand that, and how do we fit. It doesn't matter how small or large or prominent the role might be. But one of the things that we're seeing is a lot of financial issues, and one of particular user here is asking how to overcome these financial issues when you are strapped financially, when you don't have money, when you can't hire necessarily a coach, when you're also trying to figure out, is my resume good enough, what type of resources are out there, but also how to really be innovative and look at that. And you mentioned something really powerful a second ago, how leadership shifts, and how we are also seeing more and more actual entrepreneurial mindsets, so that we're coming in and treating large corporations as our own business in a way, and giving our best versions of ourselves, and working very hard to be part of it, or a sense of ownership to make it happen. So do you mind sharing a little bit of, from financial side of it, how do you differentiate that, and how do you help still, you know, moving along and progressing?
Of course, and I understand, you know, what's happening this year is very different, because it had a financial strain on a lot of people out there, people that were considered insecure jobs, you know, and have lost their jobs from no fault of their own, you know, because it is what it is, or they were in industries that have been hardly hit, like tourism, or, you know, hotels or restoration, that are still not having recovered at all from what's happening now. And I understand it's very important, but I would say a few things. First, you always have free help that's out there. It might not be personalized, because of course you don't have the value you can get versus a paid service, but you definitely have so much value out there of free tips, of free things that I share, that other coaches that are great, such as, like, you know, that I have on my network as well, that share free tips and free things. Take advantage of these things. Read them carefully, you know, acknowledge them, because they are really important. It's not just, you know, motivational quotes or everything. It's really tips that we share on resumes, on networking, on interview tips that would help you if you're not able to have a paid service. That definitely is the first thing. The second thing I would say is, you have people that are probably in your close circle around you that have, you know, that are in jobs that you're interested in, or maybe know of jobs you're interested in. Get to contact these people first to understand what it is that they do, so they can also help you understand how to sell it better. So you understand it from their point of view. You understand if it's right for you, if you feel like it's something you can work with. And network. Networking is very important. Networking is not just about saying, hello, here is my CV, can you send it for a job? Because that doesn't work. We know that. And it's ourselves if we're saying we do. But it's establishing a connection, right? So for example, you and me, obviously we don't work together, but we've established a relationship that has built over time. And it wasn't saying, hello, can I use your services? But it's really generally about getting to know the other person more and more. So you can ask for help at the beginning, free help. And trust me, when you ask for help without any second intention, most people are more than willing to help. And this is where you can get the most value. And then the last thing is, if you are able to, there are so many webinars that are free. There are so many group coaching sessions that are at a lesser rate and still gives you a lot of value. Check these out. Go in and even read books. You know, there are so many books that are really packed with value and packed with things. There are so many other tools out there that you can use if you're not able to have a paid service that can be able to help you get there.
Yes, and we see the pandemic change a lot, and a lot of people are really going with a lot of shifts and changes, and so many people are actually not strong in navigating these changes. So that's the reason one of the key things is, again, pivot, but also being flexible, allowing yourself to be part of the change, not to just look at the change as being forced upon you and dreading and avoiding. More you do that, you're going to slow you down, less progress you're going to make, and more you're going to suffer. From my standpoint, when I teach with and work with the leadership and executives, not only from advisory, but also obviously, yes, from coaching side, I see a lot of leadership gaps. And one of the things that I'm seeing more and more, talent that comes in with a strong leadership sense and self-awareness and already very well established position who they are as an individual. Not only in what they're going to do for the company, but then also capable and able to bring their strengths and other ways of navigating, as you just mentioned, in networking, I think it's a tremendously valuable today, because we need more and more initiative and more positive thinkers and problem solvers versus people that are focusing and constantly pointing on what's not working and what is going wrong versus figuring out why is wrong, why is not working, and being not only solution oriented, but also bringing and rallying teams to do the same. So with that in mind, obviously we cannot do everything ourselves, but we can do so much more with the team, right?
100%. And I think, yeah.
Please.
And I think leaders, I think like this specific pandemic will really show us who the true leaders are out there. Because it's something navigating a company when, you know, it's sailing and everything is going well and there is no rocks or anything coming at us. And it's something completely different where it's something we haven't experienced before. And it really, I think, encompasses the quality of a true leader in terms of showing them, are they really able to sail the boat, right? To be the captain of the boat and to really lead the boat beyond the storm. Because right now you're in a storm, but are you going to be able to get out of it, or are you going to sink with the storm as something completely different? And this is what companies are still trying to manage these days, because a lot of companies are still struggling. And obviously the third wave that's coming is not helping things out. It's making things worse. So it's really also how to navigate these by maintaining the pressure, you know, because again, the leader has sometimes a pressure, but you don't want to delegate the pressure to cripple these to the rest of the teams, because then you affect productivity. It's still definitely about having a vision, because your vision might change, but you need to be visionary in order to be a leader. You need to see not just the next year, because no one knows what the next 2021 is gonna give us, right? Even if it's more flowery, hopefully in the middle of the year, it will still have some rocks thrown our way in the beginning of the year. So it's more about having a vision, not of 2021, but it's about having a vision for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years, to be able to really keep the company afloat. That I think would set leaders apart, definitely.
And that is excellent point, because everybody thinks just by quickly exiting this year, all of the problems will stay in this year. And it's not reality, depending how much you did, how much you pivot, how much proactive you were, either with your own business or with job search or with your company, whatever might be the scenario or combination of those two. I'm seeing a lot of people are now doing multiple things, working for the company as well, having their own enterprise and trying to navigate these crazy changes because of safety, security, or alternatives, right? But one thing I'm seeing, and one of the listeners here pointed out really strong aspects of it, is the pattern that we're using so many things in 2020 as excuse. And I'm seeing this quite a bit also on the high leadership level. And one of the things that I'm also seeing, for example, I don't know if you're familiar, 𝗚𝗹𝗻𝗋 Economic Forum, the meeting is happening again in January, and the world leaders are meeting, and they're mobilizing and pioneering and finding ways how to solve and shape these new policies and principles and partnerships. And they're recognizing that they cannot solve the level of complexity on their own, and will take them way too long, and they don't have a time, and we all needed this solution yesterday. So more than ever, I also see need for that holistic, great, strong, healthy partnerships. And as you said, I love what you just shared, vision. Why is it important to have a vision is because that shared vision helps us to go in the same direction. So do you mind sharing a little bit about, to pivot from that vision, obviously comes very strong need for the values. And I'm seeing so many people shift their values in order to fit. Do you mind just sharing from your perspective, what are you seeing that is happening, and how vision also is pivots to the values, and where the values are sitting right now from your perspective?
100%. So I think in terms of values, like the companies are shifting slightly in terms of, you know, what they're looking for in terms of values. So before it was, you know, things like innovation, success, where we saw in many companies out there before. Right now, it's shifting a bit more in terms of diversity and inclusion. which a lot of companies are into because they want to try and show that, you know, they're fitting a lot of people out there from different backgrounds, different cultures, different environment, etc., etc. But from my perspective, we need to look at something that's also beyond, you know, success or innovation or diversity and innovation, etc. We really need to look at something that, I mean, companies, I think, that will survive are either like companies, sorry, that are really making a difference and will make a difference in the change, in changing the world in a positive way. So it's not just selling a product at the end of the day. You know, consumers are being much more tough, much more judgmental, much more difficult, less loyal than before. You and me were both consumers. All of the people on the call with us are consumers. And we all know that it's shifted from 10 years ago, but it's going to shift massively again, because COVID is also showing you what your priorities are and what's important to have, what's important to focus on. If it's family, right? It's health before family, because right, number one is health before family. I mean, it's both hand in hand together, but obviously we all want to be healthy with what's happening. It's your friends. It's you know, what's important for you. It's yourself before work, before anything else. And I think more importantly for leaders today, on top of the visionary value that they have, for me, one important criteria that they should have, or what I look up to in the top leaders I've seen out there, whether it's company or whether it's influencers, are empathy. And empathy in the sense that, you know, it's really like having full empathy of what's going on right now. What can we do and come collectively, which no one is doing at the moment, collectively in terms of changing things and doing something different. And you see that on LinkedIn, because you have a great networking on LinkedIn that really is coming together to really help people that are struggling and finding difficulty in terms of, you know, finding a job, and really trying to help them with the best of our abilities, with what we can, provide them free value to help them get where they want. But this is us as individuals. I should see that, you know, the companies, for them to make a difference, should do the same in terms of what can we give to the consumers, or what change can we make in the environment that really, really drives us into a positive change. Because COVID-19 is just a virus, but there are so many changes happening in the world where we're damaging the environment and everything, and that's not going to go away. But we really need to make a difference in terms of that, to start changing things and moving things around.
That is excellent point. You should go to Davos and meet at the World Economic Forum, because this is exactly, I feel like we had already a lot of systematic issues, and COVID was just one of explosion in a way that shook up the world, but the niche starts showing up, all of those stuff that we kind of start sweeping underneath of the rug and didn't want to address, or didn't want to agree, or pretend that they don't exist, or they were simply not a priority, depending which part of the globe we're looking at, right? So looking at this from very global perspective, pandemic just cracked open something that we really had to see on individual level, on the team level, organizational level, and sense of where do we belong and who we are, right? I feel like we're on the critical crossroads right now. And I love what you said. We don't know how 2021 will unfold. We know that's going to be a very rocky start, because we cannot expect, just because, you know, we are literally in the new year, that things going to just shift in a split of second. But thing is, we have to pay attention to what we can do, right? And make these very strong, crucial choices. And things are really fast approaching. I'm seeing a lot of competing priorities. I've seen a lot of sense of urgencies where I'm sitting, who I'm talking to, again, from those high-level decision-making situations. But I'm also seeing a lot of paralysis. I'm also seeing no action. And we cannot afford that. So I again want to kudos you for being the leader, for stepping up and showing up, and really showing what's possible from your own efforts. And you're already doing so much, and it's again very transformational. So hopefully for everybody that's watching and listening, they can really see that we can shift, even if it's just a small wave with few of us, but leveraging tools and what's available in the best possible context in a possible way with all of these challenges. Back to empathy, if you don't mind. I honestly thought that everybody's grown up with families or environment where the empathy is born into. And I learned hard way, I'm sure you did, from surviving the war, even though you were very young, still your parents were scarred and your elderly and your family members, because wars happen in times of conflicts when people take away humanity and human factor, and as a result also compassion, as a result also empathy, and also as a result kindness. All of those three things, empathy, kindness, and compassion, are interconnected. Can't be empathetic without being kind. You just can't. You cannot be compassionate if you are not kind and empathetic. Has to be kind of look at holistically and on three-pronged approach. So do you mind sharing a little bit, what shift do you see? Because right now, yes, we had tons of diversity questions, and now we're throwing diversity left and right, but just having people from different cultures, but not having diverse mindset and not diverse opportunity for solving problems, that doesn't solve anything either. We need to be able to create environments where we can truly diversely discuss these topics and find solutions. So do you mind sharing a little bit more about that? Because I think that will be phenomenal value for our listeners.
For sure. So I think empathy is something that unfortunately people are not born with. It depends, you know, like empathy comes, I think, with a background of what your experience is, what your story is, what your experiences are at work, individual, at school, everything that you've had and everything that you've been built up to be the person who you are today will contribute in terms of your level of empathy or not, you know. And we see that a lot of companies, for me, pretend that they are people companies, but then when it really comes to showing the true picture, sorry, you don't really see that, or you see just a glimpse of, oh, we're people, but we're like, no, you're not, because then this is what you're doing right now, you know? And of course, it's an economical sense. So I understand the financial crisis might not be something easy for companies to let go of people, etc. But for me, empathy, beyond leaders, even as a manager, right? Like
as a human, as employee, as a talent, as an individual, right?
100%. And I've had, like, you know, I've worked with different people, and I've had managers, I'm not saying good or bad because it's not for me to say good or bad, but some had a higher level of empathy than other. And guess what that got me? Because someone who's more empathetic will get you to do more for them. You will do so much more for them because you know that they care. And empathy is beyond just, you know, the work relation thing. Like, it's just genuinely caring about the other person. And I'm not saying you should be friends, because some people don't like to overstep boundaries, and that's completely fine. But it's more about getting to know a bit more about who the person in the team is with you, even if it's just going on a lunch break, you know, getting to know how they're doing. Like, maybe they're struggling at home and you have no idea about it, and it's affecting their work and you have no idea about that. But guess what? If you ask about it and you're able to work with them, then they will give it back to you 100 times more when the time comes. Because people that are empathetic, you wanna support them no matter what. You're gonna be with them. You're gonna be loyal to them. And I think that's why it's so important, not just for leaders, but for managers, for people to not just like you more, but how do you say, like, support you more, like be with you more. This is how you really form your tribe at work, in my opinion.
I love it, and I think that is a fantastic approach. But I also think that is, if you're empathetic human being, period, you're going to attract more people like yourself that have the value in humanity, like that are very strong, human-centric naturally, and they exude that, and they show by example. As a result, they naturally lead that face of humanity and what that looks like. And I think that is where we need more and more people to serve and show up in an authentic way, who they truly are, and fully. Like, I remember when, you know, I use, like, everybody used to say, Izabela, you lead too much with the heart. That doesn't mean I don't have a brain coming with that, but just because nature of the work in the past I used to work with, you know, was necessary, and people could sense it. As a result, I put them at ease, and as a result, they were able to open up, and as a result, we were able to create a very strong communication and connection, and as a result, outcomes. when you're dealing with different groups, you have to really understand also who you have with you. Yes, we can still be culturally appropriate, but we can still show that we're humans and how humanity reflects. And I really feel like this is what's missing. So I'm curious, how is it culturally right now where you sit? And I mean, you're helping a lot clients from all over the world, obviously, not just in Middle East region and not just in the UAE and Dubai, but how do you see that transcending on the global scale? Do you see already a shift happening, or at least shift as a result of your work? Tell us a little bit more of the stories or examples where you see how instantaneously that comes back multiplied.
I think definitely the empathy aspect has dialed up more during COVID and this year, because people came together, although they had less things, and fewer things maybe. But definitely, I see from my perspective that people came together more to help each other more, beyond, LinkedIn, beyond networking, beyond job seekers, beyond anything else. But even if it's just to share a meal, or to help your neighbors, or to see things. And I know that because I also, I also experienced that with my own country. I mean, in Lebanon, first of all, with everything that's going on, I see that everyone in the country, although they're passing through the most difficult thing, they all came together. Even though they don't have maybe food on the table, they're still coming together. And this is what shows you, the amazing human being mindset of how it's formed, the empathy behind it, and the fact that, it's not how do you say, it's not all for one and one for all. It's like a sense of being, a sense of community that's built up together. And that's obviously just Lebanon in terms of example, but beyond that, even people within, LinkedIn, within the UAE, within the US, everywhere, we're kind of trying our best to really help people that need help, and providing as much as we can, free tips, free value. If I see something that matches someone, because I get a lot of people connecting with me and saying, oh, we have this role, we want you to come in. And I'm not interested in that, but I always open up, with any referral that I know, whenever it comes, to say that I know this person. Even if I might know of the person, I'm more than happy to pass it on as a referral, because it might give them the chance to be able to get something. And I think it's really important to do this, because it's important to just share, if I'm in a position to help, then why should I not help someone else? I would expect someone else to do it for me. And whether they do it or not is irrelevant. But if I'm able to do it, then it will bring me so much joy to know that I'm helping someone. And that's what I do through my work as well. Seeing success stories and seeing my clients getting a job is the thing that keeps me going, in terms of, the excitement that I see with people that haven't had jobs for 6 months, or even moving from one job to another and finally getting the thing that they want, is like me getting it myself, because we've worked on this together and I'm able to help the person. And I think that's more rewarding than anything else.
That's beautiful. And I love that you touch about giving with an open heart, without necessarily always thinking of what I'm going to get in return, because so much culturally different society has put a lot of expectations and pressure, and more we just give and more we do to actually receive. And for that, as you said, all those experiences, we enrich our lives in so many beautiful ways. Specifically right now, look at us. We're talking, I am up in mountains, actually, Colorado mountains. Outside is snowstorm and it's very cold. And you are in Dubai and it's late at night. And we're having live conversation that we're sharing with our global communities on multiple platforms. And having chance to dialogue, interact, and really understand people's pain point and answer questions. Look at that great, exciting ways also to give back, right? I really appreciate you showing up and stepping up and showing up late at night just to give back. That is tremendous. We had a couple of questions I want to make sure we also address. Sure. Because the question is being asked, can empathy be taught? And of course, I will let you answer. And how do you teach it, right? Because I get that question asked a lot of times. from when I do leadership training, leadership development. So I'd like to answer that first, and then we can go from there.
I think empathy, that's a really good question, actually. I think empathy can be taught through experiences. So it's putting yourself in certain situations and in certain stories for you to start feeling empathy. And you might feel empathy towards a certain subject or another because it's personal. But what I would say is pick the topics that are important to you. So let's say, for example, beyond work, right? Let's say, for example, you're an animal person, and this is something that's close to your heart. This, if you dial up that experience, this will give you a glimpse of empathy that you start forging and that you can take into work experience and other things out there. But to build it, I would say first focus on things that are important and that you care about, that will tend to bring you more empathy, and then it will help you scale and and develop your level of empathy even more for you to start using it on a day-to-day work basis.
Yes. I like what you just said, because it is about action and about experience. You cannot have empathy sitting, criticizing others, or trying to think that is just something by watching, and you have to put it in experiential state. And from there, you also have to really pay attention, be very present, and recognize how other people are reacting as a result of your action. That is where we also, I see more and more leaders specifically that I insist on to share more compassion towards their personal needs and demands, because people react to different things and extreme situations in different ways. Who you support, who you let go, who you rehire, who you hire, how your organizational structure is going to look like, who you allow to continue to work remotely. Do you expand now talent search beyond borders, outside of the US or outside of, UI or whatever might be the scenario? I feel like this also echoes much further, and you spot on. Everything starts with us, how we show up on individual level, and then how we show up professionally.
100%. And one thing, 100% right. And one thing I'd like to add, actually, that's important to bounce back on what you were saying, what will help you drive even further this level of empathy is the art of listening. And why is it important to listen? If you look at the best leaders out there and you see that they're on a table with other people, the first thing you will notice is that they don't tend to speak the first people. They speak last. And why do they speak last? Because they have really good listening skills. And when I'm saying listening skills, we're all in human nature. When we're asked a question or when we're talking about a certain topic that's close to our heart, we don't really listen to what the other person is saying. We already are formulating in our head what we want to say or what we want to bounce back on. And that's so important in terms of dialing up that level of empathy, is to show the person that you're listening, that you're actually caring about, that you're bouncing back or reiterating what the other person is saying to make them feel heard, and then to communicate it and understand first where they're coming from. You have your point of view. It's understanding that other people have their own points of view. And even if it's different than yours, understand why they're saying what they're saying first before you respond with your own point of view. And I think that's also dialing up the level of empathy even more.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. And I hope you guys, again, questions and comments, that you guys are getting a lot out of it, because this is true, raw, real, live, unrehearsed, just genuinely sharing based on experiences. And experience is a goal, guys, because we are bold, we're daring, we allow ourselves to go and push ourselves, learn from it, and know what works and what doesn't. And no action will not take you anywhere. But action, even if you fail, if you don't do it first time well, by repeating, by adjusting, by hearing, by listening, and paying attention, eventually will get you where you really want it to be. So I think that is very, very important. And you spot on, listening to reply versus listening to understand, but also listening to connect. I often listen not only just nonverbal and verbal, but tonality and everything else, and energy that comes from, and also the posture that tells me if people are coming also from the pain and suffering or challenges. And when we strip all of that down, it's beautiful. We take away all the fears. We take away all the barriers. We take away ego. We take away all these differentiating factors of power dynamics, who has more title or years of experience or whatever might be the scenario. And down we're just, as I always say, bare naked in the truth as a humans on just at the beautiful human level. And that is where magic happens.
So true. Connecting with someone, like, you know, will make you like connect with someone and then share things beyond the work aspect, as we said, like will help you to connect on different things and to connect with one another on things you might not even know you had as common things, like you and me.
Yes, and otherwise we'll never, like on the surface, we'll never discover beyond the profile or beyond the generic stuff how actually much more similarities there, and how much actually similar experiences there, and as a result, how closer we are to one another than we ever thought we might be. So from the global now perspective, we see a lot of shift. Earlier we addressed a little bit of talent and leadership. Do you mind just projecting a little bit, what do you see where some of the key demands will be? Because obviously demand is changing, right? And we addressed a little bit of that, but before we wrap up, what would you like to audience to pay attention and understand so that they can pivot and position themselves for maximum success during these challenging times?
I would say in terms of demand, so definitely the job market is not going to get easier in a sense. It's going to get more competitive. It's going to get more fierce. So as I said, regardless of COVID reducing, the impacts, unfortunately, and the impacts that we're getting financially and economically will take a longer time to recover. So, and this will probably take, like, you know, a couple of years to be able to go back to a healthy level, I would say. Of course, it's going to be going up, but to go back to a healthy level it was before, it will take some more time. And for you to really be able to make a difference out there, you have to like give it your best, in the sense that don't just focus on one approach. Don't just focus on, okay, I'm only going to send CV. I'm going to personalize my CV and make the most out of it and expect results from it. You have to try all of the different approaches, because you don't know what will work for you. So you have time, identify what it is that you want. What is your goal for 2021? What do you want to get as a career goal? You know, you want to apply for a specific type of role. You don't know what you want, then try to understand that first. And when you do, and you know what your strengths are, really try different approaches, all of the approaches. Personalize your CV. You are wasting your time and the recruiter's time, but we don't care about the recruiter's time. You are wasting your time if you use the same CV and you send it to multiple companies. Even if it's the same type of role, you are wasting your time, because there are so many softwares out there today that are so proficient in terms of analyzing your data to see if it matches the job description. And if you're not tailoring your CV to each and every job description, no matter how tedious it will be, you're just going to be wasting your time. So better do 5 a day or even 3 a day, but do it properly, versus do it 50 a day. But that's just the first thing. Network, because even if all of us don't like doing it, but you have to take the first step. And this is how it works. If you ask me, all of the jobs I got in the past, I only got through networking. Only. All of them. None of them through recruiters, none of them through applying job online. And definitely, I'm not saying you should not use these approaches, because I said use all of the approaches, but networking is key. And I understand for introverts, it's not as easy, but take the first step. It's not about doing an interview. Try to ask for help, give something back, and build these relationships, as we said. Try to find a common ground between you and the person you're trying to connect with. So it seems more of a genuine approach versus a push message. And you will see how much difference it makes. Reach out to recruiters. You never know if something is going to open up or not. It might not have worked for me. It might work with a lot of people. So you don't know what's going to work for you. Reach out to recruiters. Reach out to people that you know that are in industries, whether they have job openings or not at the moment. Just share it with everyone out there in terms of what you are looking for. Because when the time comes, you never know. Instead of waiting for the job posting to be online and to reach out to them, they will think about you the first moment they have something or they know of something. And you need to maintain that. Plus, you need to make sure that you give something that's different, because you need to stand out from versus like the thousands and thousands of CVs and everyone using the same tactics. And you need to identify what is it that's going to be for you. Is it going to be a free added value of something that you can give to these people that will help you really show them how interested you are in this particular role and the effort you've made behind it to research the company and to give them a proposal or something, not a consultancy thing, but even if it's a glimpse of something to get you the chance of getting an interview. It's up to you to see what works for you, but really you have to try everything out there because January is coming up. Well, it is already here, actually. This is a big wave, like recruitment wave. And the one after that is in September. So you can imagine the gap between both. I mean, of course, there are jobs here and there that are posted, but the main recruitment waves are January and September. And this is where the bulk is out there. You really don't want to miss out on that because you really want to put yourself out there and making sure you maximize that as much as you can. So use your time efficiently. It's not about applying just for the sake of it, but organize yourself and prioritize your day so you can really get the most out of it.
Brilliant. That is fantastic advice. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to pivot another question that I feel like a lot of people don't understand. When people say networking, I know we're doing virtual networking, and you and I know how to do that effectively. But many people don't understand. It's not just having connection on LinkedIn or sending a message or sharing what you need or want, but it's also the conversation and follow-up and the value or extra layers. So do you mind just pointing out for seekers, what would be your recommendation for very good, solid, positive networking?
So one thing I always share with my clients is I tell them, if I'm a person like, okay, I'm a coach, so I'm a bit different. I respond to everyone. But if I put myself in a recruiter's role, if you want, I'd probably be getting at this stage thousands of messages a day, right? It's just virtually impossible for me to go through the thousands of messages and respond to each one. You really want to make sure you say something that's going to catch my attention. I might not respond the first time, but if you send me a message again, I might respond to it. And of course, I'm saying, don't just after 24 hours of not response, just send me another message out there. You know, like wait the appropriate time in terms of maybe wait 3 days and then send another message out there and know when to stop. It's not about I'm sending, because then that becomes spam in terms of sending messages. Be mindful of how you're sending the message. It's not about, again, it's the same as the CV. It's not about taking the same message and saying, hello, my name is blah, blah, and then copy pasting to all of the people out there, just changing the name. Because people know when it's also a generic message that you're just sending, changing the name. You want to make sure, look at their LinkedIn profile, see what stands out there that can be a common ground between you and the other person. Is it a company you've worked with, he's worked in before or she's worked in before, and you have in the past that you can connect with? Is it a similar a type of role? Is it a connection you have in common? Is it an interest that they share? Like they follow, I don't know, football, like, you know, or whatever. I can't even find my words anymore.
Sure, the sports or commonality around the events or the things that you share the passion, and it's easy from the passion standpoint to open the door, either as a music or it's concert or the film, whatever might be the case. Absolutely.
Okay. So find that common ground and personalize that message for them, so it looks more genuine versus, please, can you look at my CV? I need a job.
Yeah, a lot of times people focus so much when they're in very dire needs on their needs only, and it's very understandable. It's a human nature. But even if that is the case, you can still package it in a way that is thoughtful and considerate of others people's time. And if you come from compassionate way, guess what? You're going to get a compassion back. Very rarely you're going to get anger or silent treatment or just ghosting because, again, because if you're coming from right place, as you said, people tend to do more and they're willing to help. So
100%. And if you think, what's the worst that will happen? If they don't respond back, then that's okay. If you send X amount of messages and a lot of people don't respond back, just don't focus on them. Focus on the ones that have responded and build that back up. Because you will have people that are not responding. You will have people that are ghosting you, and it's okay. But just don't stop doing what you're doing. Don't let one rejection or one, no answer message stop you from doing what you're doing. Just keep going, and you will get answers, and you will get positives, and you will get a change.
I love what you just said that, and it's a lot of rejection. And actually, one of the, based on my research, things that I even did before COVID, top 5 fears that we were facing in between 2015 to 2019, where fear of rejection was a #1. And I can definitely attest that this year, fear of rejection is absolutely still the #1, because as adults, we have a struggle, have a hard time being rejected. And I see that in personal life, in professional life, and people are just having a really hard time with that. So spot on, you guys. Next boyfriend, the next job, next company, whatever might be the case, don't get hung up on one thing, because it's just plenty of beautiful people out there. We have, how many? 8 billion people right now on the planet Earth right now? Oh my God, so much to choose from, right? And so many companies to be part of, and so many environments where we can thrive. So please, please, please look what works best for you.
100%. And the funny thing is, I wrote a small article on, actually, it's the first article I wrote on LinkedIn, actually. It's a fear of rejection kind of thing. And one thing I say that you need to keep in mind, that it's not, if you have any kind of rejection, whether it's personal or professional, it has nothing to do with you. It is not about you, and you need to understand that. It's about them. It's the person, the company, whoever rejecting you. It's about them. It's not about you. So don't make it about you. Don't take it personal. If it doesn't work, then it's just not meant to be, whatever it is. And just move on to something that's more of your match and that will create synergies for you. But don't take rejection personally, because it's not about you.
Absolutely, guys. And Milagro, have a great day. Thank you so much for joining and sharing all the beautiful notes and messages. Michael, Muhammad, and many others. We were trying to share your comments in the live as much as we could. And answer all your questions. And I'm so glad you guys got a lot out of it. Sweetheart, it was an absolute pleasure, Kim, to have this conversation with you. And we wanted to get everybody on the right foot, right, with a lot of right energy and excitement for 2021, because we can make it the best we can, right, and still accomplish so much. Look at what you did in just 2020 with all these obstacles and challenges. So I wanted to say thank you for showing up and serving and sharing your words of wisdom.
Thank you for having me. It was really nice having a conversation with you. And to all the people that are watching, as you said, the year is, well, actually the year is over. Let's not say the year is not over, but it doesn't mean anything, because it's just the start of you getting what you want. So start working on what you want, start building these things so you can get them by the end of January, so you can get the job you want or the role you want or whatever it is if it's not in the job, in the job environment. But really, 2021 is the start, and this is your chance of really going after what you want. Just build your mindset, build it for you, and you will get it with hard work and with focused efforts.
Fantastic mindset, follow skill sets, and then lead the way. You have to have a leadership traits within you. Otherwise, you guys will get plowed. You have to stand up. You have to have those muscles, right? Okay, guys, have a fantastic rest of the day, and thank you so much for watching us. Cheers. Bye.